Welcome to the Talented Learning Show podcast series, episode 71, with independent learning tech analyst John Lay. Today I interview Raghu Viswanathan, VP of Education and Documentation at MongoDB, about redesigning their customer ed program. You can find more of our fiercely independent content at talentedlearning.com. Well, welcome back, listeners, and thanks very much for tuning in to yet another episode of the Talented Learning Show. On this show, I am so fortunate to interview experts in customer education and extended enterprise learning technology from both the vendor and the practitioner points of view. Today's no different, but we've got a special guest, so today's maybe even better than before. The last few years since and during COVID have been a boom to online learning industry and specifically the customer education communities. If organizations were sitting on the sideline with customer and partner education in 2018 and 19, they most likely are not today. So there was a lot of rapidly planned phase ones out there in the world. But now that organizations are using customer education as a competitive differentiator, there's also a lot of phase twos and phase threes out there, organizations that are really taking it to the next level. And that's what we have here today with our guest, Raghu. He and MongoDB have taken their customer education program to a next productivity level. And on so many ways, from a technology, from functionality provided to their instructional design and content strategy, as well as how they go to market and democratize their content and syndicate it. And it's really just a great example of what customer education can grow to be in organizations that are large, global, and very technical. We're going to learn all about it today. Raghu, welcome to the Talented Learning Show. It's really great to have you here.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it. It's good to be here and I appreciate the time.
All right, let's get going. Raghu, MongoDB might not be a household name to a lot of non-technical folks that are listening today. So why don't we start at the top and have you give us a good introduction to who your organization is holistically, and then we'll dig down into the training and education parts.
Yeah, absolutely. So MongoDB is known as one of the leaders in the non-relational data space. I think we all know that we're surrounded by data today. It's everywhere we look, and what people may not realize is that 80% of the data that we see is unstructured data. So think of images, think of video, think of streaming, think of sound. All of these things are unstructured data that don't fit into the traditional rows and columns that we've always known about, when you think about spreadsheets, for example. So building modern database applications is really the challenge in our industry today. And MongoDB is really at the forefront of that. And what we've done here is we not only have a core database that we're well known for, but we also have a set of technologies built around it where developers can build modern applications against a multi-dimensional database. And so for us, we believe very strongly in developers. Developers is where the innovation's at, and developers are also the people that sometimes make the technology decision these days. When you think about all the technology choices out there, you need developers to really provide that recommendation. So we want to get to developers as quickly as we can. And in our marketing, we say that we love developers, and we absolutely do. We embrace them wholeheartedly. We're all about making them successful, and anything we can do there is what we are really passionate about. And I think you'll hear about Atlas, which is our main data management service. And so Atlas is a service that wraps around the database and also all these other technologies that I mentioned before. And so for us, the numbers showcase themselves. We have over 140,000 developers that join us every single week, as an example. Our software has been downloaded over 400 million times. We have about 45,000 customers today in MongoDB. And so for us, that's the power of the technology, and that's the power of the enablement that we're doing here. So that's MongoDB in a nutshell. And education is really critical to that, right? Because when you're trying to make developers successful, that's where the education piece comes in.
Yeah, how about it? How about it? The instructional designer in me was just quaking as you were describing your organization and developers and the I guess the technical nature of that, it must be quite an educational challenge to not only embrace a customer education program, but to do it with such technical content. Tell us all about it. Tell us about the efforts of your customer education embracement program. What's that look like?
Yeah, thank you for acknowledging that. And like you correctly said, education is critical because if we can make people knowledgeable, then they're going to embrace our technology. And so for us in the world of education, we believe that education is multidimensional. Different people like to learn differently, and we want to meet people where they're at and help them learn as quickly as possible. And so our education department here is organized into four different areas. One of them is MongoDB documentation, which is really just our product documentation, but it's critical because it's the first go-to stop for developers when they want to read up about something. And this is where we have a comprehensive overview of all of our features and functions across all of our products. The second part of the department is MongoDB University, and this is our online free training business where people can watch videos and learn directly from an expert. And it's free and frictionless, and we can talk about that a little bit later. But what's built into the university experience is not only the videos, but also the labs, hands-on labs that developers can do to practice the technology. And we also have quizzes and knowledge checks to help learners validate the knowledge that they have. And on top of that, we also have a formal certification that people can take to say that, hey, I'm officially MongoDB certified, and we at MongoDB are going to vouch for you as someone who's being certified. So that's MongoDB University. The third department that we have here is MongoDB Academia, and this is our outreach program to colleges and universities, because what we want to see happen there is we want professors to teach MongoDB in universities, and we want students to learn MongoDB in the universities. And we're all about capturing the hearts and minds of developers, as I already mentioned, but we're also in the business of capturing the hearts and minds of our future developers. And those future developers are sitting in the colleges and universities today. So for us, that outreach program is another arm of the education function. And then last but not least is MongoDB Press. And this is essentially a collection of technical books that we're writing that are MongoDB sanctioned and stay current on our technology. Because what we've learned over the years is, books continue to be a great way to learn. It doesn't go away. And we offer both ebooks, print books, and other ways to learn. So for us, so when you think about education, it's like I said, multidimensional. And the way I like to say it is, as a learner, there's many ways to learn. You can read it. Read it means you can read it in our documentation. You can read it in our MongoDB Press books. You can watch it, meaning that you can watch a video and learn directly from an expert. You can try it, which is our hands-on lab experience, where some learners like to learn just straight through a keyboard. They like to peck away and learn, and it's a wonderful way to learn. Some people like to achieve it, which is that they want to start with a goal, a specific outcome, like getting certified. And by getting certified, that motivates them to learn to achieve that end result. And then we have a new way of learning, which we call Ask It. And Ask It simply is a generative AI-based chatbot experience where you can actually engage with us and ask conversational questions in plain English, and we can give you the information that you're looking for. So for us, that's what I love about education at MongoDB. It's just multifaceted, and we really try to cater to different styles and different needs, and really kind of capture that human experience in the way people want to learn.
Wow, love it, love it. That is so cool and so diverse. What is the scope in terms of, I guess, if you can share it, in terms of like how often learners are engaging you? Like, is from a throughput standpoint, is what's that look like? Like, how often are they?
It's a lot. I mean, we get a million learners holistically. across the platforms, which is really a lot of learners today.
Oh,
And
man.
so a lot of people come repeatedly back and forth because they are engaging in all the different mediums that I just described. And so for us, that's been the power of it, right? Because some learners, they are in it to learn. They're looking for that structured experience, which is where university comes in. But some people just want to come in and out. They've got a specific question, they want to go into our documentation, they want to go into one of our books, and they want to learn it quickly and come in and out. So for us, repeat engagement and getting them coming back is really, really important to us.
Wow. Wow. There's so much to dig into. I wish we had a whole day and not just a half hour. But how about we start with some really curious things that you said? Can you tell us about free and frictionless? That is such a cool concept of how you think about that. And tell us how that's played itself out in your organization, your customer ed organization, please.
Yeah, no, thank you for asking. And so I think for many people who are in the education space, there's always this debate about whether learning should be a paid service or it should be a free service. There's always that sort of philosophical question that's always been out there. And in MongoDB, the philosophy is all of our digital learning is completely free, just straight up. It's completely free. And the reason for it is because the belief system is that learning is what gets people knowledgeable about our product. And when that happens, they start to use our product. And when they start to use our product, then they'll eventually buy the product. So this really comes from those open source roots of MongoDB, where it's okay to give people content. It's okay to give people software. Let people use it, right? And let them see the value of it. And then, the right thing happens from an economic point of view. But what I found, so that the free philosophy is something that I really, really applaud MongoDB for. But what I applaud MongoDB even more for is taking it to a frictionless level. And what that means is it's not only free, but we don't even ask you for your email to look at content, because sometimes in a free experience we say, oh, give us your email, right, and then we'll give you access to the content. But here you can go directly to the content with no email whatsoever. And the reason, again, is because let's take out every barrier for someone to actually look at the content. And it's been great, because you get so many people through. You're appealing to everybody, and in this day and age, we live in a society where people want things quickly, and they don't want to have to go through a lot of barriers to find it, even if it's free.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so for us, that philosophy has really paid off in a very big
Hmm.
way, because it's driven usage of the product, usage of our trials, usage of, and then finally to some economic outcome that helps the company.
Hmm. At some uh, point in that journey, they have to become known, I would imagine. Where did you decide that gate is, that barrier eventually is?
Yeah, so for us, it's so the content is frictionless. When you get to a point where you want to do a hands-on lab exercise, where you want
Uh-huh.
to log into Atlas, you have to log in at some point. And so that login is when we know who you are. The other scenario is if you want to track your personal progress and get some kind of a certificate from us saying that you learned with us, then you need to self-declare who you are, because then we can track the fact that you finished the material.
Smart.
So if you choose to do our labs, which our developers do, and or if you choose to say, look, I want some outcome out of it, then we need to know who you are. But otherwise, you can operate anonymously and learn as much as you want in our environment.
Wow, that's almost unheard of. Unheard of. It's like a huge funnel, and you just put millions of potential learners in the top of that funnel, and over time they'll dribble down and out. Does that free and frictionless extend to the academic outreach program too? How did you approach universities? Is it like freely take this and teach it, or do they need to be certified? Like how do you think about that?
It's a great question. So for our academia program, there's two primary audiences. We have our educators and we also have our students.
Hmm.
So for both audiences, the content is free. So now, even for the educators, they can go into the same user experience and learn our technology, if they'd like. What we do for educators, though, we provide them extra aids to help them teach the technology, teaching tips and tricks and things like that. So as part of that process, we do ask them for who they are. But if it's just a matter of learning the technology, they can do it just like anybody else. And it's the same for students. We have a packaging of our learning through the GitHub Student Pack, and so they can actually learn through that program. We offer them a free certification for our students. We even give them Atlas credits, which is our cloud product, our cloud credits for people to try out the product. So all of that has been put in place so that we've made it again as easy as possible for our future developers to learn with us.
Wow, interesting. The other thing about your content that really stuck out that I love is the try it concept behind the firewall, as it turns out. Where you get to practice in that lab. I think there's lots and lots of software and technology organizations that are kind of stuck in that same thing. Can you just describe how like how hard that was to set up a lab environment and be able to do that? Is that bigger than a bread box? That take a long time, or is that easy to do nowadays?
Yeah, it's a great question. The technology has gotten a lot better, and so the magic with hands-on lab environments. First of all, it's really important to embrace it because learners need to learn directly in the software. So it's one thing to learn through videos. I'm a big proponent of that. It's one thing to learn by reading. Another proponent of that. But there's no substitute in the end for actually playing with the product. And so making that available is really important. The trick to it is the technology that you want something where in one window experience you want to have the instructions down one side, and you want to have the cloud service or your software in the same window, so it's a split screen experience is what you want. And then the idea is that in the instructions you can provide code samples, you could provide instructions, and you can literally just cut and paste the code across from the instruction side of the house directly into the software. So that split screen experience is really, really important. That's what you want to provide your learners. And so for us, there are several companies that do this today, and we use Instruct for this technology. It's worked out really well for us. They offer this exact same capability that I've just described, and you can with a click of a button, you can literally just copy code across and then just log into Atlas and do it right away. The complexity of it, though, is that there is some infrastructure you need to build, because while these technologies are great, you have to eventually connect it back to Atlas or whatever cloud service it is that you have. So that I call that scaffolding, a little bit of infrastructure. That layer of technology needs to be there. And so it's good to invest a little bit in that just to make it very seamless. You don't have to do it, but if you do it, it becomes seamless. If you don't, what happens is there may be some extra steps that someone has to go through just to log in. And so for
Uh-huh.
us, we've just made it easy. You get directly into a database, directly into a cluster, and we've built that extra level of, I call it scaffolding. Think of it as a little bit of glue and infrastructure code to allow for that. The other trick to this is eventually you're going to have some kind of a learning management system. That's the primary way that your learners are consuming the content. So what we've done is we've integrated the Instruct directly with our learning management system, which in our case is Thought Industries. And so we built an integration between them so that when you learn, you're in the LMS, you come across and do your hands-on exercise to another technology. But then when you're done with that technology, it reports back the success of that activity back to the learning management system. So the learning management system becomes the source of truth for all the holistic learning that's going on. And so that integration is also important. So my advice to people is, build the scaffolding. It's not hard. Just build the scaffolding and also build that integration with the learning management system.
Wow. Cool. Cool. And so in our other conversation, I fell off the chair when you told me the number of integrations you have inside your ecosystem. Would you care to comment on a little bit the scope of that and some of the systems that are all part of what you need to make the world go round?
Yeah, absolutely. We've built 21 integrations so far with our learning management system. And it's a big deal. Thank you for asking that. For a lot of people who design education businesses, they think that the LMS, so the learning management system, is the only thing that you need. And in reality, that's not the case. Learning management systems are great. You need them. They are the core engine of how people learn. It's the way you consume videos or consume content or report on content. But in the end, if you want to provide exams, if you want to provide labs, if you want to provide other chatbots, if you want to provide other experiences, you have to integrate it with the LMS. So it's okay if the LMS doesn't do everything. In fact, I would say it's the LMS plus other technologies that drives that what I call an ecosystem of learning. So I think thinking that way, I think really helps because otherwise you can get trapped into trying to find that perfect LMS, which doesn't exist really. But there are amazing LMSs out there for sure. And so you want to basically just have that integration. So for us, just to give you a sense of the categories of integrations, we have integrations with Cavion and Examity for our certifications to administer our certifications, register for certifications, and go through a very high-end experience there. And that's integrated back with our LMS, which I mentioned before, Start Industries. We also have integrations with Instruct, as I mentioned before, for our lab experience. We have integrations with Stripe for our e-commerce experience. Now, I mentioned in my intro that our learning is free. The only thing we charge for is our certification exam because you need to just pay for that to take that because it is a high stakes proctored exam and we're vouching for you as being someone certified. So we want to make sure that you're serious about getting certified. But that's the only
Sounds
thing
reasonable.
that we charge for. And then beyond that, we have integrations with Zendesk for our learner support. It's important not to underestimate learner support. Make it easy to answer questions. So questions come in seamlessly. They get into Zendesk. 90% of our questions are resolved as a one-touch experience, so one and done interaction with our learners. So we want to make that super easy. That's really important. So in our example, we use Zendesk as our supporting system. And then because we are a frictionless free business, we need to also track user sessions. So we have integrations with Google Analytics, for example, Segment, and all these other technologies to just track sessions. We don't know who you are necessarily, but we want to know the fact that you have sessions with us so we can just see what you're doing and really kind of enrich that learning experience. Another category of integrations is with our educators. There's an integration. There's a company called Share ID where you can check if someone's actually an educator or not, and they have this way to check multiple universities, multiple countries. So we use that integration. So for us, it's a collection of technologies, as you can see, and we're like a conglomerate of technologies. But we're proud of that. We want to bring the best technology for the best use case, bring it together into one seamless experience, which is what the integration story has been all about.
Listeners, now you know why I wanted to have Raghu on the show today because this is incredible. So tell me what you measure. Like what's important to you? What's you talked a little bit about Google Analytics and sessions there, but management, what do they care about? Your management.
So what we care about here is several things. One is quality, actually,
Mm,
because if the content is high quality, then people will come back. So usually the first number of people says, how many learners do you have? But for us, it's actually not, that's not the first question. The first question is, how good is your quality of your learning? So we have a star system here where every single video is rated and every down to the micro asset that we have. And so it's on a 5-star system, and I'm proud to say that we're at like 4.7 stars in our content experience, and we're about 4.7 in our lab experience too. So every lab, every video is rated separately. So content quality and lab quality is critical, and I think that's a very refreshing way to look at it because if the content's good, people are going to come back, and this is the online world we live in, so we can relate to that. The second thing we look at is engagement, which is how many sessions are we getting? How often are people coming back? Because even in an anonymous world, you can tell if someone's coming back over and over again because they have the same session. Because unless someone blew away their cookies every single day, you would basically
hmm
know it's the same person. Again, you don't know who they are, but you know what they're coming and doing with that. So that level of intelligence is actually plenty to know that you're engaging with learners. You don't need to know who they are, which is kind
Sure.
of a fascinating learning for me, running education here at MongoDB. And the last thing we look at here is the number of certifications. So how many people are actually going through a full experience to get fully certified, and they want to and they want us to vouch for their learning. So those are the three primary metrics that we look at. We call them our North Star metrics. And then we have a lot of other metrics, below that, of course. That's the philosophical approach for how we look at it.
Wow. Wow. Fascinating. All right, we're out of time, so we got one final question. For everybody on the call that's a few steps behind you in terms of developing their customer experience, which I would think is just about everybody. What's a good piece of advice you could share with everybody? Something that you've learned in the last couple of years that would make everybody else's job a little bit easier, following a couple of years behind you.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. A couple of things. I would encourage people to build modular content, first of all. The fact that it's okay to have content in 5 minute chunks, because some people only have 5 minutes to spare, and then connect that into longer learning experiences. So modularity, I think, is really, really important. The second thing I would say is, let the business be free if you can. It's okay. That's going to work out just fine because you get more learners through, and you're going to get a bigger group of people learning your technology. And the last thing I would say is, we've embraced this idea of syndication, this idea that it's
Mhm.
okay for your content to be in other places. So, for example, we put our content on LinkedIn Learning and on Coursera, and we're also looking at other places right now. So, not everybody has to come to you. You can actually go to them. And I think that model also helps kind of grow the overall ecosystem. And I think this is what it takes to build a more modern business in this day and age, that we're in.
Wow. Sage advice. Raghu Viswanathan is the VP of Education, Academia, and Documentation at MongoDB. Just a great conversation, and a North Star is a good way to describe that of where you can take listeners, your customer education program, thinking about that from time documentation to a university approach to academia to the press, all four of those pillars tying it together, but then also embracing and supporting the whole concept of that learners are different. And so in small chunks, whether you want to read, watch, or do, or practice, or achieve, all those are available to you. And so thinking about that all at once so you can get something when you need it in the heat of the moment, right? 90% of the time from support all the way to take a certification while making it one big, great, giant global funnel to find eventual and future users of your system. If that's not a great example of customer education in action, I don't know what is. Raghu, thank you for joining me today. It was great to have you here. Thanks for sharing your wisdom. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you again. Listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Talented Learning Show podcast series. Hopefully, you learned a lot today about what the high end of customer ed looks like and things that you can practically put into place today in your own programs to take it up a notch. If you want to learn more about Raghu and MongoDB's content, you just got to go to their website at mongodb.com and you can learn all about it, even take some free and frictionless content. If you want to see more of our independent information about customer education or anything learning technology, just go to talentedlearning.com. Thank you and have a great day, everybody.